So before we know who ends up making it into those 4 spots, Danny, how are you feeling? I mean, it's been a conversation. It has been a hot debate. Final word before we find out who's actually in.
I'm genuinely pissed off. I hate this. I don't like that somebody's going to get screwed, because we can all agree on that. A team that is deserving, best, whatever term you want to use. And we've sat here for 10 years, maybe even for 25, like since the BCS was created, and we've been okay with that. And that drives me nuts. And somehow that this debate and all this yelling and back and forth is supposedly good for the sport. The sport is good enough. It has rivalries. It has tradition. It has passionate fans. We don't need this garbage. And some of those players that feel like they've earned their way in on some team, whether it's Bama, Florida State, Texas, Georgia, whatever team that's on the outside looking in, is going to get left brokenhearted. Like, it's one thing for me to be upset, Bud to be upset, anybody, like, whatever. We'll get over it. But those guys laid their lives on the line for it, and they're going to have to sit at home and watch the championship be played. It's a disgrace.
I think Georgia I would leave out of that conversation. You had a chance, right? I mean, I think that if we are like truly trying to draw a line, that Georgia losing to Alabama in like a game that, was just a field goal, but Georgia played really well out the gate. You lost in the championship game. They have often argued that the conference championship games are the play-in to the playoff. So guess what? They were in the play-in and they lost. You're out. You go home. I mean, there's the Kirby Smart politicking for his fan base and for his players. But I think you talk to Kirby 2 months from now, he'll be like, we wanted to be in the playoff. We should have beat Alabama. We weren't healthy enough and we didn't play well enough. So this to me, we've got 5 conference champions that are all undefeated or have 1 loss, 5 Power 5 conference champions for 4 spots. So somebody, Danny, to your point, there are players that are going to be just gutted by what's about to happen. But I think that's where I draw the line. No Ohio State, no Georgia. I think that's the group that we're looking at. We're going to really have some hearts broken.
But if those are the best teams, shouldn't they be in?
Right.
No. Where do we draw the arbitrary line, right? Like from a power rating standpoint.
Oh, no. We're not doing power ratings.
No, that's kind of the argument, right? Like,
power rating said Oregon was the Pac-12 champion.
Exactly. Right. You're making the point, Chip.
Power rating said Georgia was the SEC champion.
Right.
Power rating, it's
so messed up.
Let's be real. The only reason Georgia is still part of the quote unquote debate and conversation is because of what it's done in previous years. But like you mentioned,
2-time reigning champion, 29 wins in a row.
And again, if we're doing it if we didn't play any games and we're just doing it off power ratings, I would have Georgia as the best team in the country. I still think Georgia is the best team in the country, even though it lost to Alabama yesterday. But it didn't win its conference. And in this format, in this system, like you were saying, Chip, if there are 3 undefeated Power 5 champions and there are 2 Power 5 champions with 1 loss, a 1-loss non-conference champion should not be part of the conversation. So just like Ohio State isn't part of the conversation, Georgia shouldn't be either.
And then you add the twist, which is really what I think the only thing the committee can do to leave Florida State out is to reference the quarterback situation. Because if you go resumes, Florida State's resume is just as good as anybody out there. And I would say it's better than Michigan's. Like, if you went from 13 games, not just 2 games, which is really all Michigan played, Florida State would have a better resume. And if you stack it up against Bama's, they have a common opponent that nobody's bringing up. Like they both did LSU.
Yeah.
In Bama and Florida State. And Florida State won on neutral versus a healthy LSU by 3 touchdowns. Bama, won by 2 touchdowns at home, in which Jaden Daniels was going off on them and then got knocked out of the game. Like all of this, it drives me nuts because we have to do this. Like I felt embarrassed for Kirby Smart. Not he had to. It was the same thing Nick Saban did last year. It's embarrassing for those guys to tarnish their legacy by having to go out there and grovel and try to make their case. It's awful.
I mean, it's politicking, right?
Yeah, but it's embarrassing. Leave the politicians in D.C.
Right? Yeah, that's why I don't like the playoff. I mean, I originally wanted it back in the BCS era when I thought, okay, this is stupid. Just have 2 teams. Let's get to the playoff. Now we've had the playoff for a decade. I think it's dumber than the BCS was. I think it's ruined the sport. I think it's ruined the conversation around the sport, because instead of talking about like that's the one thing I was proud about with our show last night, is we didn't spend the entire time debating this. We talked about the games. I think the playoff is turning the sport to not talking about anything that happens in the sport. It's just everybody yelling about what they want to happen now.
Maybe that changes with 12.
Maybe.
I hope so.
Also, Danny, like from the jump, yeah, I remember, I mean, everyone, this is not like a unique, but you were the first person to say it after Jordan Travis goes down, that you cannot use the Kenyon Martin Cincinnati story, because basketball has 5 on the court at the same time. And you said football's the ultimate team sport. You got 22 starters. You were 1 through 85. And honestly, if we're talking about, what we saw from Florida State last night, is that they've got a lot of very important players who are very good beyond Jordan Travis that deserve a chance to go compete for a national championship.
Yep. Michigan is number 1.
Oh man, you're ahead of how?
Yeah.
How are you ahead of me?
Oh, you have it better than I'm better than you are. I pay for that high class cable.
I'm like 3 seconds behind.
I just figured the chat would tell us. So somebody will have old school cable on there.
Yeah, but they might psych us out too, and then it'll be really bummed.
That's listen to me. I'm the only one.
Are they gonna go 1?
Oh my God, Illinois is at 2? No.
Look at Bielema.
Are they gonna go 1-6? They'll go 1-2, then they'll go 6. Like they're gonna build as much drama for the 4 spot as they possibly can. I've been in that set.
That's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, why wouldn't you? And they've done it before where they've revealed.
Please don't do a commercial break after this.
Oh, they're going to hit a break.
No!
I don't know. They may not.
No, they will.
Right, would we hit a break? We would hit a break.
I would never do that to our listeners. I respect them too damn much. Number 2, the Washington Huskies.
All right.
By the way, Washington should have been number 1. Like, that's ridiculous that we're going off resumes, but see, who the heck knows what they're looking at. Washington's resume has been better than Michigan's.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a legit argument for Washington.
And so Michigan, that makes them in the Rose Bowl, right?
They get to choose. They haven't, the screen I'm looking at hasn't declared which one is which, but they do whatever. They might pick Sugar, but come on, man. We're talking about the Michigan Wolverines from the Big Ten.
There's no chance Michigan would choose to play on turf against a team that is closer to New Orleans geographically, regardless of which of the 3 it is.
Oh, whether it's Florida State, Texas, or Alabama.
Right. Like there's 0%. Like if you're Michigan, you want to play further away from those teams on grass. Like Michigan's going to choose the Rose Bowl.
At least not if you're as smart as you're always telling everybody you are.
Yeah.
Number 3, the Texas Longhorns.
Knew it.
Oh man.
Now they go 6.
So now they're going to show us like Georgia at 6, and then they're going to go to commercial for 4 and 5.
Washington, Texas.
So that's the first time they've leapfrogged an undefeated, right?
Yeah.
Again, and they're giving them credit for beating a team that lost to South Alabama at home 33-7 and lost on the road to UCF 45-3, but they're enamored with the style points, how great they looked against them.
Hey, listen, man, easy.
I'm just clearing it up.
Texas looked good.
They absolutely. They looked great. They looked awesome. They didn't look as good as UCF did against them or South Alabama, but they looked great.
Oh, they look good.
They did.
I'm
not saying they didn't.
I'm filling out my my awards ballot. I think I'm going to do Steve Sarkisian as my National Coach of the Year.
Really?
Yeah, you got another while we're sitting here waiting.
Texas is back.
This is the best season that Texas has had since 2009.
And it's impressive. Strength of record or strength of schedule? Because I have no clue.
They're both
metrics.
ESPN metrics.
Yeah.
Strength of record matters more because it's what you do against the
your resume, right? That's more your resume.
Otherwise, congrats to South Carolina for being in the college ball playoff. Number 1 strength of schedule, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, strength of record. The premise is what an average team would do against your schedule.
Yep.
I think Florida State's getting screwed. Just for the record.
Danny's terrified right now.
I kind of do too, but a lot, like I don't think it was a leak with the betting markets this morning. Like an international book opened like some wildly different lines than what your U.S. domestics had, and it looked like everybody just arbitraged the 2 numbers against each other.
Georgia is at 6.
No surprise.
Man.
So it's This is what we thought it was going to be.
That's an
Florida
excellent
State or
podcast
Alabama.
right here. Someone's going to listen to this.
Oh man!
All right, come on, ESPN. When I said we'll start at 12:15, I thought we'd have the answers.
So what do they do? Like the beauty pageant? Then they just go 5-4, or do they go 4?
If Florida State is at 4, does McElroy flip the desk?
He's actually been pretty fair. I mean, he's all along been.
Speaking of flipped, his position has flipped pretty hard.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he was very much like
Alabama's at 4.
Oh man!
Told you.
The games don't matter.
The games don't matter at all. By the way, this will be the first time since 1990 that we've had co-national champions. Because
after Florida State goes to win,
or Georgia, if they're squared up where Brett McMurphy has them, he has them playing in the Orange Bowl. Florida State versus Georgia. Winner of that game's a national champ. So you'll have co-national champs.
Michigan and Alabama in one semifinal, Washington and Texas in the other, Florida State at 5, Georgia at 6. Games don't matter?
Oh, the results don't matter.
Yes, not. All right.
Kind
of the perfect storm of them having cover, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the format changing, like what they do this year, they don't have to really hold that as precedent for future years because like, oh, it's a different format. That was the 4-team format. Now we're in the 12-team format. So, you know, the networks kind of run the sport, guys. And
the soul of the sport is on trial. And it's dying.
The verdict was already out a long time ago. The soul's been lost in the 1950s.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
They're about to trot out NC State athletic director Boo Corrigan to explain why the ACC.
The ACC did just die.
He doesn't care. The ACC doesn't like Florida State.
The ACC just died. That's the long-term thing of this. It's done. I mean, I've been saying that it's been a dead conference walking all year long, but that was the death blow. They're gone now.